Our family's been in the Fifth Ward since the 1890s. Okay.
Who came here?
My great-grandfather
From where?
from South Carolina, which a lot of the older black families are from there. A lot of them. I think he was the first black city worker, and it was a picture of him with a horse and a great big wagon. I think he was like the garbage man. My grandfather was the first black committeeman in the state of Illinois.
Really?
He was ward chairman of the Fifth Ward, and Fifth Ward was the only Democratic ward in Evanston. I remember people used to come to our house and say, you know, will you help us get lights at this park, or get this street paved, or get somebody a job, or help somebody get out of jail, or whatever. He was just a regular guy, went to work every day. My mother was a 3-term alderman, township supervisor, probably more.
Alderman of the Fifth Ward.
Yes. My brother was a 2-term alderman, Fifth Ward also. I've been elected to the Board of Education twice myself, actually. My mother was born 2 blocks away on Jackson, 1900 blocks of Jackson. My grandfather was on the 1900 block of Asbury. I was born at Community Hospital 3 blocks away from here on Brown and Simpson, as was a lot of us. There are a lot of families, a lot of black families that have been here for 60, 80, 100 years, and this place is home to all of us. This is the place where you come for counsel, for comfort, for, it's a safe place. This is our home. And the last thing that should happen is that we lose this place in our community.
When you went to school here, what grades did it serve?
It went from kindergarten to 6th grade. And I think the year after I left, I got integrated for 1 year. I went to Lincolnwood for 1 year. I never knew racism before that. We were always the jewel of our community. Brightness and hope for the future for everybody we ever saw. Teachers wouldn't allow you to fail. ABC, do it again, come to my house on Saturday, stay here another year, but we will not send you to Haven and have Orrington and Lincolnwood teachers tell us we can't teach. They were not having that, period. And not only that, but everybody from, I could name streets, I won't, in this whole community, in this, what we think of as a black community, went to school here, all the way up to Church Street, from the canal to Church Street, and from Green Bay to the canal again. You knew every yard you could cut through, every mean lady that would keep your ball, every good apple tree, everybody waving out of their windows, people who walk their dogs, people on the bus stop, everybody's older and younger brothers and sisters. And now these kids in this very same neighborhood go to 8 or 10 different schools, and it destroys our neighborhood. When children don't know each other, then parents don't know each other, and everybody's a stranger in their own neighborhood. And it shows up as McDonald's bags in your sidewalk, or kids that'll curse in front of you might curse at you. It shows up as fights in high school, and even after that, maybe even people who will shoot you, because otherwise you had that fight in 3rd grade. It's over.
So what changed in the neighborhood, in the community?
Integration. At first it was integration, but for 40 years, or a very, very long time, it's just been desegregation. Integration is like this. Black kids get bussed out, white kids get bussed in, which is what happened here at first, the first, I don't know, few years. But then when they closed the school and moved it to King Lab to over on Lake Street, then it became desegregation, one way, one way, one way. And these children around here are never the jewel of their community of brightness and hope for the future for everybody they ever see, which again is a travesty as far as I'm concerned.
In all your travels and your life as a black man in America, what kinds of racism have you encountered?
It's the water we swim in. You know, it's pervasive. Yes, every black man's been followed around in a store, stopped by the police for something, maybe had guns pulled on you, maybe been thrown in jail for something. I've been in jail a few times, you know, it sucks too. When I got integrated, the principal didn't want us there, the teachers didn't want us there, the parents didn't want us there. The saving grace is that the kids were great. They were just kids like we were kids. They were funny and curious and clean, just like we were. What happened? There was one teacher I had would put me out in the hallway every single time. She came twice a week. Twice a week I'm out in the hallway. You're chewing gum. You're talking in class. You're reading when you should be looking at me out in the hallway. Okay? All right, fine. Fine. Another teacher, I was out in the hallway and he said, do you have a pass to be in the hall? No, I do not. Well, down to the principal. Okay, fine. I haven't done anything. I go to the principal. She says, Summers, you're a problem child. And I said, no, ma'am. I am not a problem child. I went to foster school. I was a patrol boy. I always got good grades. I said the Pledge of Allegiance in front of the school 2 or 3 times. I am not a problem child. The only difference between me now and then is 3 months over the summer and coming here. I'm not a problem child. You're my problem. This place is my problem. Now, I'm 11 years old, okay? But I was very clear about who I am and where I'm from. And this place right here where we're sitting right now, phenomenal foundation. She couldn't tell me I was a problem child. I didn't believe it. Got kicked out. First time I ever got kicked out of school, And, my mother had to come back, and my mother, God bless her, she just told me, don't say anything. Let me do the talking, which she did, I've never had teachers lie on me until then. When I ran for the Board of Education, I went to every single school except that one. For some reason, I would pull up and go in the parking lot and just leave, man. I was 30 years later, 40 years later. It was just, it's like, I don't want to go in there. This building, this campus, actually, because I think of Family Focus and Fleetwood Jourdain, which used to be Foster Center, in the same breath. Like my parents were married 58 years. I think of them in the same breath. Edna and Bill, I think of them in the same breath. I think of this campus in the same breath. To lose one of them would be horrific. It's like, cutting off an arm or a leg, really. This place has been such it's in the fabric of our community. It is, when I think community, for me, it was this campus right here, Fleetwood Jourdain Family Focus Building.
And what did you do, or do you do for a profession?
Lately, I've been writing. I've done many, many things. I started my first business when I was 17.
And what was it?
Oh, I was giving these old ladies facials. They were like 30 years old. Let's see, I paid my first year of college shooting pool.
Where did you go to college?
My first year I went to Morris Brown College in Atlanta. I finished at Alabama A&M University. I paid my second year, I'd rent a carpet cleaner, 3 carpets, $35. My junior year, I painted addresses on curbs, $7 a pop. And my senior year, I had a landscaping business. So I thought I went to school to get a degree. What I learned is how to take care of myself with or without a job. That's what I learned.
And then you mentioned that you've been homeless a couple of times.
Yeah, twice.
Can you talk about that?
Well, it sucks, Yeah, I've been homeless. I've been hungry. The first time I was in college, the first I slept in my car, made a deal with a guy at the gas station. I'll clean both bathrooms if you let me park my car here and sleep. And he was lazy anyway, but to me, it was hot and cold running water, electricity. I could wash my clothes, iron my clothes. It was light so I could study at night, and a safe place to sleep.
You homeless just because you didn't have the money for college? No, I didn't have money for college, but more importantly than that, I was not living an honorable life for a while. I came from a good family. I knew better. I just totally ignored all that good home training I had. And one year, between 19 and 20, I was a pallbearer at 3 of my friends' funerals in 1 year. All of them drug and alcohol related. And at the third one's funeral, I saved the third one's life when we were like 10 years old maybe. At his funeral, it was just too painful. But for an instant, I was at the repast and I just blanked for an instant. Had to be 100 people there. I just blanked for an instant. I see 3 drops, 1, 2, 3.
There were land between my feet, and from God's mouth to my ears said, straighten up your life or you're the next one in line. I heard it just like that, and then everybody was back. It took me decades before I told anybody about it because it sounds too fantastical, you know what I mean? 3 days later, I moved 800 miles away, got in college. You know, because I said, well, who's not going to jail? Who's not getting killed? Whose parents are proud of them? You know, mine weren't.
You didn't listen to your parents. What was the intrigue of the non-honorable life, the dishonorable life?
Well, I was a very sickly child. Very sickly. I almost died a couple times. But, so when I got healthy, I just wanted to live. I just wanted to do what I wanted to do. Do everything one time. Go where I wanted to go, do what I wanted to do. And that's what I did. I mean, I wasn't aiming at anybody. It was just, you know, it was me. But, I mean, I wasn't robbing and stealing and selling drugs, but I was doing other things that I had no business doing, you know, that you don't want your kids doing. And
then you heard this voice and you said, I'm done, I'm going to college. You left Evanston.
Yes, 3 days later. I hadn't even applied. My birthday is September 4th. It's Monday coming up. And so I knew school was just starting. I told my parents, I said, look, I'm going to school. I had moved out of home from 2 or 3 years before that. I left home when I was 18. I was 21 then. It was my 21st birthday. And so I just looked at some catalogs and went. I hadn't applied or anything. And so I lived on campus for 3 or 4 days. Hated it. Because I had my own apartment, 2 10-speed bicycles, a nice car, making $20,000 a year before I went to college, you know? And then I'm in this little tiny room with this other guy and share a communal bathroom with 30 other guys. I paid my own way through for everything.
And then you came back to Evanston after college?
No. I've lived in 5 states. I lived in Georgia, Alabama, which is where I finished college, Texas. I lived there for 9 years, Austin, Texas. Then I came back here my parents were getting old and sicklier, but my father and I didn't get along well, so, you know, God bless him, but we couldn't make it, no. So I started some retail shops. I moved to Wisconsin, to Milwaukee, and I ultimately had 4 retail shops. And then when he died, I came back. I took care of my mother for 5 years. My ex-wife and I. And she loved my mother loved her, and she took fantastic care of my mother. And then I bought the house. You know, so the place I couldn't wait to get away from. I bought that house.
And what you mentioned that you've been shot.
Yeah.
Tell me about that.
I was young and stupid. You know, what can I say? A fight broke out. I was standing there looking, and then this guy pulled out. Instead of leaving like I was supposed to, you know, you're supposed to leave. Fight breaks out, go, you know, leave. Guy pulls out a gun. Then he looked right at me. That's when I ran, you know, just in time to be too late. And he shot me, you know.
So what happened? Did you go to the hospital?
No, I came home. I talked to my father. My father was a grizzled World War II veteran. Walked across North Africa with the Patton Army fighting Rommel the Desert Fox, into Italy, Mussolini, fascism, onto Omaha Beach, D-Day. My old man was rough cut from the word go. I said, Dad, I got shot. I showed him my bloody leg. He said, that's what you get for messing with those people's wives. And we cracked up laughing. That's not what happened at all. But he was kind of smart alecky like that. Man, we cracked up laughing. So he said, you want to go to the hospital? No. If I go to the hospital, they got to call the police. Well, it's not a black man in America once it's involved in the criminal justice system. They don't have to. So we went to Walgreens, got razor blades, tweezers, gauze, tape, back to the backyard. And he said, be patient, son. I want you to cut at this angle, go in this way. If you feel this or that, stop. And I'm thinking, wow, he's done this before. I mean, nobody imagines their father doing field surgery, you know what I mean? But if you think about it, on D-Day, Omaha Beach, there were 3,000 people dead before lunchtime. Not only that, but I realized that, I've seen his body, 100 times. And some of the scars on his body were wounds like my bullet wound. I didn't know that until then. not only that, but I'd never seen such a look of concern for me on his face. I was like, whoa, maybe he does, give a rat's butt about me.
But that's what's so interesting is because you said you and your dad didn't get along at all.
No.
But it sounds like in this particular case, he was right there for you.
Oh, absolutely. So I cut, he dug. It seemed like it took a long time. It didn't take them probably 2 or 3 minutes, but it really hurt really
It was
bad.
in the middle of the night.
No, it was daytime.
Oh, definitely.
And it was still light outside. It was night, but it was long summer days kind of thing. And finally, he comes out with this bullet in the tweezers, right? And I could see the relief on his face. And he held it up, and with a hint of a smile, he said, "Be careful, son." And he just throws it over his shoulder and walks away. Now, him and I, we gained something for each other that day. We never talked about it. He never asked what happened. But that's the coolest my father's ever been in his whole entire life right there. That's my number one favorite memory of my father. First of all, this is the land where my fathers died, land of Pilgrim's Pride for me. This is home for me, period. I think that Evanston's image of itself is not even close to the reality of itself. We talk about we love our diversity, and it's true, as long as it's gone by 3:30. That's how I feel about it. You have very wealthy people, you have very poor people here, and a good thing about it is no matter where you live or what your situation is, you still know rich people. You know them. You've sometimes been to their homes and so forth. It doesn't freak you out. It's not some faraway thing for you. It's part of this place. The wealthier people here, they think here we go. I think a lot of white people just don't see you. They don't see us. They say, "Oh, I don't see color." Well, it does exist. I am not a white guy with a black face. I am not. Culturally, and none of it. I'm not. I'm a black man. I'm an African-American man. I'm a black man. I am. Our issues are not necessarily the same. Now, in the whole world, people are people. You know what I mean? But our issues are not necessarily the same, and our communities are not necessarily the same. They are not. I've been in several countries on 3 continents, and I found that the majority people, or the people who are the dominant culture, whatever that is, they have some common assumptions. One is they think their stuff is better. 2, they think everybody wants to be like them. And 3 is that if you don't want to be like them, something's wrong. Well, that's not necessarily so. So a lot of times, like I said, they don't see you, or they think your concerns are the same as theirs. And, they don't necessarily, it's not like they're aiming at you, but you keep getting hit. But I'll tell you something that happened to me a few years ago. I was at a place up here in Wilmette, and there was a wealthy white woman that came in. I was working, and she realized that I lived in Evanston. And she said, well, where do you live? And I said, well, without being politically correct, I live on the black folks side of the canal. She said, well, it's not like that anymore, is it? I said, ma'am, I chose my house just like you chose your house. And if you have 0 black, Latino, Asians on your block, I know where you live. If you have 0 of them on your block, you don't lose 1 minute of sleep. If I don't have any white people on my block, I don't lose 1 minute of sleep. If other races move on into my neighborhood and they're good neighbors, I'm okay with that, thank God. However, every time one of them move in, one of my dear neighbors who I love has to go. That's not a joyous occasion for me. I picked my home. I don't want to live where you live. I love my neighborhood.
I told you I bought your book. Tell me a little bit about your book and why you wrote it and when you wrote it and what it's called.
Well, the name of the book is Parables from the Outskirts of Polite Society. I understand the significance. I can make the adjustment but I feel like I live on the outskirts of polite society, close enough to get to it, but not necessarily feeling a need to be there. I'm well educated. I have a college degree. I take a class every 6 months for over 30 years now. Well traveled. I speak the King's English, basically. I'm a publicly elected official, homeowner, blah, blah, blah. I look like, the clean cut, all-American looking, short hair, all that. But I am from the neighborhood, man. I grew up with 15 people, a lot of love, no money. I've been hungry, I've been homeless. I'll never forget that. You get some humility when you're out there like that. You know what I mean? I have literally lived on the kindness of strangers in the fat of the land and the grace of God, literally. And you get some humility, and I never forget that. I never forget home, where my home is. I never forget that, regardless of how I appear. There's a book of short stories. They're all true, and there's a parable or lesson in every single story. I've had a very exciting life. I still do. And there are different topics, some about just general lessons, some about business. What is money? What is wealth? What is welfare? Some about family, because they're always with us, no matter what. The hardest chapter to write was one about forgiveness. Forgiveness, that was a challenge. That was by far the hardest chapter to write. But when you forgive, it doesn't necessarily harm them, and it doesn't. When you hold it, it doesn't, resentment, whatever. It doesn't necessarily hurt the other person. It doesn't help you. But when you let it go, it's a yoke off of your neck. Good. There's a chapter on freedom. That's the last chapter. The price of freedom is you have to be willing to be your own master. It's not free. I hope that it's like a reference book for your life. That's what it is. But there are times when I write when God puts his hands on the keyboard, and how I know is 2 hours later and I'm almost in tears and I've written something so extremely personal. I don't even want to tell my friends and family, but I want to touch people's hearts. And when you tell the truth, when you're willing to stick your emotional neck out and bare your naked soul and be vulnerable, you can touch people's hearts and maybe set some captives free. That's the point. That's what the book is about. My mother told me when I was about, 8, 9 years old, she said, you think an analogy, allegory, metaphor, and illusion. And I said, huh? What? What she was telling me is that I think in stories. That took me another 50 years to figure that out. And I was in Australia. I wrote this, I met this lady, her name was Roma. She had written a book. And she said, I'd like to come to the United States and promote my book. Can I come and stay at your house for a week or so? I was like, yeah, sure, no problem. Now, people say that, but they never come. But she did come. So it was summertime. Days were long. Got dark, 7:30, 8 o'clock at night. We were on the porch talking. She said, Summers, you ought to write a book. I was like, I don't even know how to think about that. People have been telling me how to write a book since I was probably 20, in my 20s. I said, I don't even know how to think about that. She said, I'll tell you how to think about it. Next time you catch yourself telling one of your campfire stories, make a note. A word, a phrase, a sentence. Come back later and fill it in. You already know the story. It's a no-brainer for you. So I got a little pad. This is my 5th one. I started making a note, then I started filling them in. Later, like a few years later, and then I looked up and I had like 60, 80, something like that, a lot.
What made you run for the school board? And what was your goal in getting on it?
I knew that there were going to be no black folks on the school board in a district with 50+% black and Latino kids. And I asked probably 30 other people to run, and nobody would do it. And, we always hope other people do things, and you look in the mirror and you realize it's you. But anyway, I opened the curtain. It was 2 or 3 days because I had already picked up a packet, but I was going to give it to whoever was going to step up. And it was January. The petitions needed to be turned in on Tuesday, like January 15th or something like that. It's like the 12th now. Saturday morning, I open the curtains, 7 o'clock, 7:30 in the morning. I see these 2 little kids walk past my house. I know them, they live on my block. I opened up the door, it was freezing outside. Put your hood on, boy, it's cold out here. Little snaggletooth 6-year-old turns around, he smiles and puts his hood on. And from the grave, my grandfather, my mother called me, Summers, the world does not revolve around you. It's the service you give to others that makes your life more valuable. Where's the greatest need? And I'm looking at the greatest need walk down the street. But it's almost like looking at myself walk down the street. I grew up on that block too, okay? And I backed away from the window. I was like, no, no, no. Because I knew it was too much work and too much time and no money, and whatever you do, half the people disagree. And in Evanston, people disagree very loudly. And I grew up with, political people. I did. I knew it was, I never wanted to do that. And so I'm backing up, no, no, no. And then I asked myself a few questions. First question, would the little boy I used to be, a 6-year-old, wanted to be an astronaut or some other things, would he still admire me today? Yes. Next question, is this something that my grandfather, who's my hero, my grandfather, my elders, and my ancestors would be proud to see me do, to step up, represent the whole community? Yes. Then this other question came out of nowhere. It was a zinger. If I did not win, would I still do the work? Would I still go to bat for these children to help improve their lives? Now understand, at the time I was a greedy fat caterpillar eating up all the leaves. Me, what I need, what I like, what I want. But the answer came back, yes. So at that point, it's the warrior's creed. It's a good day to die, grab your rifle and let's go.
Do you have like something that you're proudest of?
Yes. Before my mother died, in the end she was kind of losing it mentally a little bit. But one day in a perfect moment of clarity, she said, son, I apologize for taking you out of the bosom of foster school and sending you to school where, first of all, they did not treat you well. But more importantly, they did not expect much of you. She said, losing foster school was the worst mistake we ever made. It pulled the thread that unraveled our community. And she started sobbing. I'm sorry, son. I'm sorry. And sobbing, man. And I'm holding this old lady in my arms, man. She's sobbing. I'm sorry, son. It just engraved into my core. So when I ran for school board, on my, brochure, school in the 5th Ward. Number 1, boom. And for 7 years, there was only one person in the whole city wanting to school. It was me. 7 years later, went to a $24 million referendum. It lost 49% to 51%. And so, like I said, people say they love their diversity. Yeah, as long as it's going by 3:30, because there should be a school here. These are not just black kids and Latino kids. They're Evanston kids, and every other neighborhood has its own school, and there should be one here. Bottom line. But when there's enough white people over here, they'll build a school. They're moving in right now. When I was growing up in this community, in the 5th Ward, we had all of our own stuff. We had a black hospital, community hospital, where I was born. All my siblings were born. Most of my relatives were born. We had our own school. We had foster school. We had foster center, which is now Fleetwood Jourdain. We had delicatessens, Jack Moss. We had gas stations. We had restaurants. We had a pharmacy, Doc Morrison's pharmacy. We had little mom and pop grocery stores and corner stores. We had 2 taxi cab services. We had a bus service. We had a newspaper, the CCC. We had our own stuff. And after integration, all of that gone. I've been very candid with you.